Dear friends of Lucerne Festival, I hope you're all well, and it's an incredible pleasure to welcome Alan Gilbert, a great partner and friend of the Lucerne Festival, right now in Stockholm in his very last rehearsals for big Parsifal production. Alan, how are you doing? I gather you're just about to go on stage again and working it out.
We're actually into the run of Parsifal. We have a couple of more performances, but there's some cast changes. One planned, one not planned. So we're a little bit in a chaotic time of scheduling rehearsals that need to happen before the next performance. But it's been a wonderful run and obviously a masterpiece. And I'm happy to be speaking to you about what we've done and what we're going to be doing, because it's one of my favorite places to make music, and I think it's one of the great festivals, and so it's always a pleasure as well as an honor.
Well, Alan, I've just made a list of what we have done together in Lucerne, and obviously you are a fabulous master also of great lineups, of great productions. We had in 2022 Porgy and Bess with you in a concert performance with some mise en scène as well, and you did a wonderful project with our Academy in New York at your New York Phil Biennial Festival in 2016. And you were also with the Academy earlier with Anne-Sophie Mutter doing a world premiere of Norbert Moret's Violin Concerto, probably seen as one of the most innovative conductors. And this summer, on September 15th, for the final concert of the festival, we will be witnessing your leadership in the Gurre-Lieder by Arnold Schönberg. A triumphant work with 150 orchestra members, just about 200 singers. How do you go about this production? How do you set it up? How do you structure the rehearsals? What does it mean for you as a conductor?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it's hard to know exactly where to start in trying to answer it. The piece is, as you say, monumental, and logistically it presents so many challenges that actually it doesn't come around that often. Just to get to do it is such a privilege because it requires so many forces and so many people. The orchestra is enormous. The chorus is huge. There are lots and lots of solo roles. But if it can all come together, and I think it looks like it will come together nicely for you and your festival, it's just a magical experience because it really tells a story. It is Schoenberg at his greatest, I think. Schoenberg is an interesting composer, obviously, because his name strikes fear into many people's hearts because it's perceived as challenging and spiky and gnarly. He famously was a proponent of the 12-tone method of composition, which people find hard to understand at times. He actually had a huge range of styles across his compositional life, and this is relatively early work, and is at the height of Romanticism. It is pushing Mahler to its next logical step. It's absolutely ravishingly beautiful. It's very, very seductive. Totally easy to listen to, so there's no reason to have any fear. I personally am a fan of all of his music. I love all of Schoenberg, but certainly there's nothing in this piece that is challenging or difficult to listen to. It tells the story beautifully. Obviously, with the enormous array of forces at his disposal, he's able to create a palette of sound and color and power, as well as the most delicate, minimal gossamer tones. It really has everything, this piece, and I'm so pleased that we're able to do it, especially at a place as exciting and prestigious as Luzern.
Now, Schoenberg wrote the piece between 1900 and 1910. He started it and left it for quite some time, and then in 1910 picked it up again. He had a three-part vision where in the first two parts the soloists are more like vocal soloists and orchestra, and then in the third part he opens up yet more to a melodrama, bringing in further two soloists and narrator, 3/4-part male choruses, and a full mixed chorus. Why is he doing that?
Well, obviously, it's not just because I'm in the middle of a Wagner production that I think this way, but this idea that Wagner had of using music to express everything and creating a kind of Gesamtkunstwerk is something that inspired everybody after him, either to try to follow in those footsteps or to completely reject it and go the other direction. Either way, Wagner became a force that people had to contend with. And this is Schoenberg's stab in that direction. He really is trying to tell a story that is universal, and obviously felt that he needed these enormous forces to do it. Again, like Wagner, the fact that he left it and came back to it, I find that inspiring. Something about the creative process when composers leave things. Wagner left his Ring for 12 years in between Acts 2 and 3 of Siegfried, and he came back to it and finished it. Can you imagine starting a project and leaving it for 12 years? If I leave a project for 2 weeks, it never gets finished. But for Wagner to come back to it.
You have some examples, Alan.
Well, cleaning my house or painting the basement or, anything like that. If you start something, if you don't really follow through, it tends not to happen. But to have the perseverance and vision and tenacity to come back to a project like this and bring it to completion, I find inspiring in and of itself. And so, Wagner did it, and I'm sure inspired Schoenberg in more ways than just the sort of artistic vision, just the idea that it was important to use music to tell a universal story.
And you bring in Thomas Quasthoff as the speaker at the end, which is a somewhat abstract situation when he gets up and then it comes Ergänze Fußfrau, Gänsekraut. Where do we stand there? And I mean, obviously it will be an incredibly emotional moment when we see Thomas Quasthoff getting up. I mean, this moment when the speaker gets up always kills me, I must say. Well,
I mean, Thomas is such a great artist, and I'm happy that he's coming to help us out with this. Everything he does is so 100% committed, and is compelling on the most deeply human level. I can't think of anyone that I'd rather hear do this.
Now, Alan, you're seen probably as one of the most innovative conductors. Not all of them are very innovative, but that's a long discussion.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you were in New York, you didn't only conduct the New York Philharmonie, you created a new festival, which was a major festival for the whole New York area. We were part of it with the Academy and our alumnus. I remember very well a fantastic project, BGT Ford, where we did all the concertis in combination with other composers. And you really were a massive force in creating this festival in such a big city like New York. And now you're also at Elbphilharmonie, leading the Elbphilharmonie Orchestra, and in Stockholm, leading the Royal Swedish Opera. And where do you see it going with classical music and the whole aspect of innovation, creating new works, creating new formats?
Well, I appreciate hearing your kind words about what I've done and what I've tried to do. I don't really think of myself that way, and it's gratifying and a little bit surprising to hear you talk about me in that way. Of course, I'm pleased and it makes me proud. But I can't think of any other way to do it. I happen to be curious about many different things and many different styles and many different genres. Teaching is very important to me. I don't make decisions about what I do based on perception and what I think is fashionable, or to please somebody who is expecting this or that of me as a conductor or of artists in general. I happen to be interested in different things, and I've been very lucky in my life, in my career, that I have been able to essentially write my own ticket and follow my nose into what is interesting and inspiring to me. And being at a place like the New York Philharmonic is very fortunate for someone like me. I hope I brought something to the orchestra and to the city and to the cultural scene of New York. But for me, it was an amazing stroke of good fortune to be in a place that had resources and that was interested in trying different things and was able to forge relationships with a place like Lucerne, the Lucerne Festival. That Ligeti project that you referred to, that remains one of the most memorable concerts that I've ever done. Just to do those three masterpieces, the three concertos in one concert, first of all, it's one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but also to have the daring to present them all together really showed something that I think can't be revealed when the pieces are played individually, which is usually how they're done. I mean, it's enough for one concert to do any one of them. To do all three of them together is challenging and actually fascinating because they're so different. They're obviously cut from the same cloth as same composer, naturally, but they could not be more different, and they make a very, very interesting program. But to get people who are willing to do it and who are able to do it, that's not such a given, and that's unforgettable. And so I felt lucky to do such a program. I mean, it was not an easy thing to do. Teaching in collaboration with the festival, working with the fantastic, brilliant, talented musicians that you bring together for your academy. These are really important things to me. There are articles that you read about, should musicians be political and as a public figure, do you have a responsibility to take a stand? And I feel very passionate about things. I think the way the world is turning these days is terrifying, and I think we do need to stand up for it. But I don't think that has to do really with my profile as a musician. It's an interesting time in so many ways. I mean, you see the upcoming generation. I mean, you see brilliant talents. Klaus Mekele is very much in the news, and deservedly so. He's one of the most talented people I've ever come across. He's got charisma to burn. I've never seen anyone who's so natural. And people are questioning whether he deserves everything or whether it's appropriate. I think absolutely 100%, because he is that good. And it bodes well for the future of music that there are people like this. He's kind of sui generis. He just, where did he come from? He's like a sweet Finnish kid. I knew him when he was studying, and just to see his just incredible ease with where he is, I think is sort of is proof in and of itself. Things are going well, but if people start putting expectations on conductors or musicians, oh, you should do this, or you're responsible for this. I think it's dangerous, because the most important thing is to really be sincere, to actually be true to yourself. And some people are going to want to make more political statements than others, and to make a blanket sort of requirement that we all must do this, or we must all be innovative in this way, or I think it's important that innovation happens. And if I'm, innovative, as you say, then great. I'm pleased about that. But I think it's very easy in this sort of digital age and this age of social media, where people are being judged on very superficial criteria. It's too easy to put people into categories and say, this is what artists should be and this is what you should be. It's not going to go well if there are sort of blanket requirements for everybody. So, I mean, this is not the time for a kind of philosophical manifesto, but maybe that's at least a partial beginning to an answer of your question.
Well, you did not come to Lucerne and just conducted Brahms Symphony and Beethoven symphonies. We just did it, and it's wonderful. But you come with the Academy, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary now, which, is a statement. If you consider what all we did, and you were part of it, you brought it to New York, and you came with Organ Bass, which is not, something you do every day. And now Gurre-Lieder, which also in my time will be one of the great, I'm sure, high points in my personal career. Organ Bass already was it. I have the program lying right in front of me. And you know how many programs I have seen. And it's something that's very close. And I guess I'm kind of susceptible to these kind of performances. But whenever you're there, something special happens, I must say, without wanting to charm you to death.
Don't stop now. So nice to do Porgy and Bess. I mean, what an unexpected thing to be asked to do, and to have it so well received by your audience. I was so happy about that, because it's a true masterpiece. People think, oh, is it music theater? It's a towering masterpiece of opera, and it happens to be in the American vernacular, but it's truly great music, and I was glad that you treated it as such. So thank you again for that.
Going back to Gurre-Lieder, obviously a piece with many rehearsals. How many rehearsals will you need, and how do you go about it? I mean, do you start with the singers, the piano, or you go in right with the orchestra?
Well, it's the first project of the season, so we have a little bit of extra time. Usually we rehearse a program within the span of 1 week. We actually have rehearsals that start a little bit earlier in the previous week already, just to get things going. And of course, I'll work separately with the choruses and with the soloists and with the orchestra before we put it all together. For you, though, you should know that we have a couple of times to perform it in Hamburg, so it should be really in great shape by the time we bring it to Luzern.
Wonderful. And you'll all be coming by train?
I assume so, because the tries to travel by train as much as possible, but
well, if one goes along. Anyway, Alan, it's great to see you, and we wish you all the luck on earth for the Parsifal coming up in Stockholm. And then, of course, we're looking forward tremendously to the Gurre-Lieder with you, the MDR Elbphilharmonie Orchestra with choirs and soloists, and in abundance. It will be the highlight and the finish of the 2024 Summer Festival under the theme of curiosity. All the best, Alan, and dear friends. I think there was a fascinating input here by Alan Gilbert on the Gurre-Lieder and much more, and innovation. And having you, Alan, we all know classical music will go on, but it will also always reinvent itself. Thank you so much, and all the best wishes to you.
Thanks for having me.